Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, at this hour in the evening, as we come to take care of parish business, I pray, Lord, that you continue to bless us. Pray, Lord, that you guide, lead, and direct us in a mighty way. I pray, Lord, that you direct us and help us. I pray that you continue to bless each and every person in the sound of my voice. We're so grateful and thankful for this day. And Lord, as we leave this place tonight, I ask, Lord, that you allow each of us to get home safe and sound to our families. In your name we pray. We said amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Charles Goto and Mr. Walter Leffers. Moment of silence for him, please. Thank you very much.
So I think you guys have a copy of this. I didn't put director's report on it, sorry, but it's this piece of paper here without all the red stuff on it. First thing I wanted to do tonight is introduce Wilfred Berry. He's the owner of SJB, but he's also the expert that we're bringing out to the water plant on this side to evaluate the meters and evaluate that whole billing and collection process. There's a handout on your desk from Mr. Berry. If you have any questions, we'll give a few minutes. Mr. Coach, yeah.
You want to go ahead with the report? I'm sorry, Mr. Wilford. What are we bringing? Is that for meter reading?
It's an introduction and just a short presentation of what I've done so far.
Okay. I'm sorry, Coach. You had.
No, I just wanted to welcome Mr. Berry to Ascension Parish. He's no stranger, and the expertise that we need moving forward with him coming on, a long time overdue for us getting that done and getting things corrected as it should be. So thank you, and we look forward to some results. Some of the water. Thank you.
Great. We look forward to the results of that ourselves, and we know it's going to be timely and accurate. Next on my report is the projects and grants. This is going to be a status that we'll update you on every month, and I have Carl here that's going to talk about each one individually. Briefly, Carl will talk to each one.
Very briefly.
Welcome, Carl.
Good evening, gentlemen. The first one we have is the MOVE PUA intake structure. The design for the intake structure is complete. It's been submitted to the Louisiana Department of Health facility planning for permitting. The anticipated date for Bayou Lafourche Freshwater District to move it to take bids is April of 2022, so next month. And prior to the bid date, there will be an additional addendum to it with some revised revisions to the drawings. They were submitted with the bid package, and they've made some grade changes to reflect the grading that the freshwater district is anticipating. Any questions on that one?
Coach.
Okay.
Coach, got a question?
No question.
Oh.
I just wanted to step back just a minute before Mr. Roberto get any further, to clarify what Mr. Wilford Berry was exactly doing. What would be his position in what he's doing, what he's coming on to do?
He's under a contract, so
To
he'll be here as a contractor
For,
to do this specific task of evaluating the meters, their performance, and the billing and collection systems.
I just wanted to
Okay.
advise the general public in itself on what was he coming on to do, because he didn't say it and I didn't say it either, so I just wanted to take a step back and to let them know his position that he's coming on to perform in terms of moving forward.
All right, next we have the PUA water meter replacements. That's in the Corps of Engineers 219 project. We've submitted right of entry letters signed by the mayor and the parish president to allow the Corps to do the work. We're anticipating an advertisement date of April 19th and an award date of June 19th this year.
So let's just remind everybody, that's replacing all the meters in PUA, so that's about
To
3,500
the
meters.
digital read meters.
That's from Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
You said replacing all the meters about the ACUD 1 and PUA.
No, ACUD 1 are meters already. We're gonna replace all of the Badger meters inside the city limits of Donaldsonville in the PUA system with Neptune meters, which are digitally read meters.
So it'll be about 3,500 meters will be replaced.
That was my next question. I talked with you earlier this week, Bill, in terms of getting that answer for me on the amount of meters that we have changed thus far.
Well, I can give you that data right now if you like. It's 3,500 total in PUA. We've replaced 260 of them to date in PUA. ACUD 1 has 750, and they all are Neptune meters. So generally speaking, we've replaced about 1,000, and we have about 2,500 to go.
So what would be the total? 35, okay.
So-
Had we got any accuracy as far as those meters, any determination on how they're reading?
Well, that's what Mr. Berry is gonna do, so, we're gonna let him report on that when he finishes his project.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
I guess, just
All
one
right.
question. With the replacement, how many we have so far? The 300 and
Well, we've replaced about 1,000.
about 1,000?
Well,
So-
not replace, I'm sorry. If you take the 750 that are existing Neptunes in ACD 1, and we've replaced about 250 or 260 in PUA.
Okay. And all this will marry with electronic reads that you're trying to do, or is this?
They're gonna all be electronic read. Matter of fact, we've had some meetings today, and we're looking at, we currently have two systems. We have one for ACD 1 and one for PUA that accumulates that data and makes billing statements, et cetera, about it. But we're looking, Kim today found that perhaps we can use the existing Munis system to do that.
Perfect.
So that would be existing software that we have, something that's maintained by our IT people and they're familiar with. I think that would be a great solution if it works out.
Works out, great.
Okay. And the next one would be the West Bank piping replacement. That, we're in the process now of requesting a change of funding through the Corps of Engineers we were allotted funds for the sewer project.
5 million.
Yeah, it's I think 5.5 million.
Okay.
For the Hillaryville sewer project, and which is gonna be obsolete since we're getting out of the sewer business. And we petitioned the Corps to change that funding to replace some piping here in Donaldsonville on the PUA system. Some of the older pipes, and they're in the process of designing, and picking which pipes exactly need to be replaced.
Mr.
Sure, go ahead, go.
Okay, you mentioned the replacement. I think me and Bill, I talked with Bill about the replacement on identifying the worst parts of the line, and most of the pipes that's bad supposedly is in PUA. And
Yes.
the worst parts, we have identified those parts, and some of the leakage, I'm sure we have some leaks
Yes.
that are worse than others. We have identified some of those and looking forward to changing those out.
Yeah, we do.
Is that right?
Yes. And, well, we have, the design that's done so far was done in that, in anticipation of that USDA program. And I think their concentration was for upsizing and getting metal pipe out of the ground. It's gonna shift now to, I think, and I don't know enough about the core design yet, because it's still in the works, as far as, what steps they're gonna take, and of course, they're gonna go still with the metal and upsizing and the worst parts. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure that's how they're gonna prioritize it.
So in changing those pipes, are we changing the dimension or the size?
Yes. There'll be
Which
size
size?
changes,
Which size?
material changes. It's gonna go to all plastic pipe.
What size are we
So,
going to?
I mean, we're gonna have to do evaluation of this, Coach, and see what probably you guys wanna do, so you have the alternative of, do you make them all where you have fire protection built in, where you line size them enough to where you get fire protection built in, or do you do more lines and you don't up them that much? So we'll have to bring you that data and make that decision at some later time.
And at this stage, we are just in getting the funds transferred, and the core project management has moved a request up to the division leadership, and they anticipate an answer from them in about 2 weeks.
Thank you.
And upon the division leadership, the next step would be for the, approving. The next step would be asking for a funding request to the parish to secure the matching funds. And that would be at 25%.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on that one?
The,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I gotta ask so many questions, but
That's all right, that's what we're here for, I think.
Look, the matching, the percentage you're talking about, is that adequate to normal percentage that we normally get to match?
This is
That's
very-
core.
Is that
The
good, or
core
is that?
That's very
25%,
good, yes.
yeah.
That's a quarter on a dollar.
Thank you.
Okay. The next project is the Weft elevated tower altitude valve.
I didn't put that one in, so you're gonna have to add that one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we have Cdbg
Yeah,
Grant next.
this is one
Well,
that,
there's some
Carl
minor
came on last.
projects that he hadn't included that I
Okay,
was gonna
so,
give you an
okay,
update.
go ahead.
The Weft project is to put an altitude valve in the elevated tower to regulate flow. It's been, a contract was awarded and executed to Grady Crawford Construction Company. They are in the process of submitting their submittals. They have been issued a notice to proceed. The anticipated delivery date, it's a long lead item. It's going to be the end of April. And the substantial completion should be July 9th, and the final completion would be around September 9th. They were giving them 120 contract days to get to substantial completion, and 180 days to, an extra 60 days to get to final completion. And I don't anticipate it taking that long. By the time they get to final completion, substantial, there should be a month maybe after that before we close it out. Another one that's in the works is Fema grant for generators for PUA for the water treatment plant. There will be a 300 kW generator placed there permanently. And there's going to be some renovations to the platform outside the plant to stage that on. And a 250 kilowatt generator at the ground storage facility. We have the anticipated delivery date for the generators, both of them, is August 29th of this year. We plan on starting advertising around April 7th to be anticipated award on May 2nd, and the project should be complete by October 31st.
We have a generator currently there.
Yeah,
that's
we
available.
have one that is being rented,
Okay.
so we do have coverage. And now the next one is for the Cdbg Grant in Darrow.
I'm gonna do that one.
You can do that, okay?
So the CDBG in Darrow, that's by everybody's description, is the disaster. It's a 365-day scheduled project that is 954 days behind schedule. It's the roads in Darrow have been torn up. So, quick math says about 3 years behind, a 1-year project, 3 years behind. I've met with both the constructors and we pay Evan Graves to oversee that. I met with both of them this week on separate occasions, and we expressed our disappointment in how things are going there. You also have on the agenda tonight a request to extend the contract of Evans Graves and the contract for them to oversee this project. And I've talked to Travis about that a few times this afternoon. I'll bring you up to date when that happens. But I think it's just, we can say that project has not performed like we wanted to. It's almost over though. So maybe we can hold our breath and get it finished within the next few weeks, actually. If right now our biggest holdup is the Mississippi River's above the flood stage in the Carrollton gauge, so they can't dig or that close to the levee.
So what's the,
And
That's
that
on
is,
the east bank, Coach, that's in
Okay.
there.
and that is an 80-foot section that had a water line conflict that is, the river went up on them and they can't get to it. We have put in a request to the Corps for a waiver on their limits, and we haven't heard back on that. And I do have an update. The roads have been completed by the contractor, and it was never in their contract to completely fix the roads. They were going to be in the roads program for the parish. So they've been turned over to Joey, and I've got an update, and he anticipates the construction to start in about 3 weeks, and starting with the worst roads first. I think Walter Hill is one that is considered the biggest problem.
I'm sure this contractor is being penalized for not meeting their obligation.
There's no mechanism in the contract for that. So what's happened is over this period of 3 or 4 years, they've gotten contract extensions. Some of the times when I sat over there, got contract extensions, the overseer got contract extensions, and on recommendations of Evans Graves, but there's not a mechanism in there to punish. I mean, if it makes any difference, both contractors, the Shaw, which is doing the construction, and Evans Graves, which is doing the management, they don't get any additional money when these things are delayed. So they spend in this extra 900 days, they don't get any extra money for that. They still get the same amount as the original
And
contract.
it's within budget, still.
As a matter of fact, it
And
was
I've got
under budget by what? We installed a new sump for about
Yeah,
$500,000.
We added a new pump station in. And just to give you an idea, I tabulated what the problems they've had. They've had 112 rain days, 121 days missed due to COVID. That utility relocation, they only got 30 days, but that was discovered in April of last year, and Baton Rouge Water just got and finished the relocation earlier this month.
I'm just looking at those numbers, though, they don't add up to 900.
Well, no, but there was an extension granted to them in change order number seven, I'm sorry, to extend the contract. In November, we called their bonding agency, which shook them up a little bit, and we set them to give us a schedule for completion and a recovery plan to get through the rest of the contract and get this thing finished.
So in moving forward,
Yes.
the next
It is.
contract, we'll
Actually, they have
some
a
of that
schedule
stuff
for
in.
completion
This
date
won't
of
happen
April
again.
23rd, but with the river, they're not gonna be able to meet that. Again, we have another agenda item, we're gonna talk about the extension of that overseer's contract, project management one, we'll talk about that at the time. If, Carl, he's got another item, why don't you just do Oak Grove and Belle Savon, these are two, we were going back, switching back to sewer now. So we have two treatment plants that have had compliance issues. Carl's gonna give an update on that.
Yes, and we've had the, Oak Grove is one that is, NWI is handling it. They've submitted a design plan that we've reviewed, and it looks okay. And we've written response letters to LDQ to explain the situation, that we are transferring the sewer assets to NWI, and that we are working strenuously with them to get their plants into compliance. They've offered their solutions, which we support, to get the outfalls compliant with LDEQ limits. And that's Oak Grove. Belle Savane is another one that had some problems, and we're working in conjunction with NWI and developers on that one. They are going to completely redo the plant that's out there and add another plant with a higher level of treatment and aeration and tertiary treatment to make sure that they meet the limits. And we've just been submitting and letting LDH know that we, or DEQ know that we are in support, and we're working with them strenuously to get this, all these in compliance.
You know, I might make a note here that this is a hole that we have in our development code, that, and so what happens is somebody wants to build a subdivision, they design a treatment plant. They send that design to the Department of Health. Department of Health, they don't know what the discharge limits are gonna be. So they're like 2 years behind on the discharge limits, so they say, this'll work, for example, 15, 30, 15. But the real discharge parameters are 252. So when they come back and it goes in service, it can't meet those new discharge requirements, especially BOD or dissolved oxygen. So then and you don't find that out. So we have a bond, this 1-year bond, but you don't find that out until you get all these flows through the treatment plant. So, it's after the bond has expired, and then now you're faced with this problem of I've got this treatment plant that has excursions every month.
So
I'm
is
not
that,
looking for a
is that
solution, I'm
best-
just telling you that
So-
that's an issue that probably should be developed on, the more of the parish level.
Yeah, and that's gonna be hard to predict. And I don't know, we need a range.
Well, first, I think we need to make an effort to get LDH and DEQ to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And they should, LDH shouldn't approve something that those discharge requirements are 10 times what our actual ones are.
Correct.
Secondly, we need something in there that says that they have to prove the performance before we take over the responsibility of that plant. Now, again, it's gonna be NWI hoping sometime in the future, but right now, we're saddled with the 3, maybe 4 of those that have this same issue.
So Bill, are you volunteering to write that ordinance so we can introduce it?
Well, I don't have much experience with ordinances. I'll continue to work with you guys, and we'll see what we can do in the meantime while we're in this 1-year hiatus.
So, Mr. Aaron?
Any other questions for me?
Yeah, well, I'll add a couple of things. You had anything, Coach? Okay, let's go back to, Oak Grove.
Okay.
I've talked to Bill about this a couple of times. The levels of overflowing, how many have we had recently?
I've gotten several reports. I have not enumerated them.
Well, I'm getting 2 different stories here. We are too late before the pumps kick on. You have so much, there's so much space in between the pipe, and then you actually have people that's backing up in their houses and their businesses. Is there any way that we can correct this, or who,
Have you gotten
NWI,
that
or,
recently,
huh?
Dempsey? Have you gotten those complaints recently? Because what was it, about 2 weeks ago, they went out there and they reset the levels that those pumps come on at?
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
So,
Our guys with the parish had a system where they had switches, and when pumps upstream would shut down, when the number 3 was close to capacity, and a sensor at the plant that kicked that pump off. NWI has gone, I think, to doing something different. I'm not exactly sure what, but I think they made the adjustments.
okay, good. That's,
So Carl, if you will, check and see if we've gotten any complaints over the
Okay,
last few weeks.
I will.
And let Dempsey
Okay.
know.
yeah, I was in Louisiana nursery, and they were not able to use the bathroom, so
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
what was,
I didn't hear that. I did
Yeah.
get a call from, and went out to
I think that might
Advanced
have been when
Auto.
You called me a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, but
Yeah.
we've done something since
Okay,
then, so
perfect.
I want to know.
the next thing would be, and look, I appreciate the in-house on Henryville. Which one we starting on first, in Darren?
On
Is it
that-
Walter Hill? Which road? are we
Walter
starting?
Hill, yes.
And I'll share Mr. Lawler here. I know that the road is being used for a lot of the tie-ins and everything. We don't want any roads cut after we put this new road in. So whatever we do, make sure Joey, all of us are on the same page when we pave this road.
Yeah.
To
We
not
have
to cut it again.
anticipated some, I've been in contact with a couple of people who called me, and they were preparing to move trailers on some of those lots, and we made sure that we had a service put in for them as
Okay.
part of this project. So
Yeah.
we're trying to look ahead on that.
Appreciate that.
So we actually have Carl has a sign-off sheet for when the piping contractor is finished, Shaw is finished, then Carl inspects that, then we give that to Joey, and he's signed off on it, saying that there's no more piping work or anything.
Okay, great.
Making sure that you're dotting your i's and crossing your t's, because I've seen it too many times where we think we finish and then you put a perfect road down, then you come back and gotta bust it up.
All right, and we've tried to
You forgot
anticipate,
this, forgot that, so
that.
let's make sure you get
But-
that check off sheet and make sure it's,
Okay.
it's dotted and the T's are crossed.
All right,
All
that's
right, anything
the end of the
else?
call?
All right, Carl,
That's
thank
it?
you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have the water plant, and Gavin is gonna talk to us about that, performance, past performance of the water plant, along with some few numbers.
Evening, how are y'all?
Evening.
So I'll start off with that we've had no issues with the water quality leaving the plant. Any time recently, we've had no sort of need for any boil orders or any issues with any compliance. With that, like I said, we have some projects that are coming down the pipeline, some that are gonna help with the work, the intake structure. And then we also are gonna have, we're using some of the Weft money to change out filter media in the plant. A thing that we've normally presented before is the water loss report, and that's what the document you have in front of us. We had done a lot of changes on there. We used to present it monthly, but with the dates that the meters were read for the water production
Show 'em
versus
what it looks like, Gavin. It's the big spreadsheet.
Yeah,
This one?
yes, sir,
Yeah.
yes. So, given the fact that the dates change on when the meters are read, sometimes they're read varying, the first routes are read normally the first week, the routes, 50, 60, 80 are read the second week, and then 90, 92, 100, 111 are read in the third week. So, given the fact that they're read throughout the month, it causes our production numbers to vary slightly from that month's sales numbers. So, what we've kind of figured out is that over the course of 6 months, a year, it shows a more accurate investigation as to what our water loss is. Without boring you through it, starting from the top, I'll be real quick. It's the first number is the water that comes in from our
Just
intake
give 'em
structure.
those percentages, I think that would be
Okay.
more.
For as far as the percentages go, total for the year to date, there's 10,948,000 gallons of water that's unaccounted for. Based on Quality Water Health Council, the average is normally 16%. EPA says it's 14 with as high as 60%. If you include our water leaks from PUA, ACUD1, and the unaccounted for amount, that brings our total to 8.58% of our water produced. As far as stuff that we can't find, that's unaccounted for. While yes, there are issues with leaks that we are finding, but we're repairing them diligently, and we are accurate. We're trying to figure out how much the water loss is for those leaks as accurately as possible. It's based on the the pipe size, the duration of the leak, and the estimated volume that's flowing through the pipe at that point for that leak.
Okay, questions on that?
Yeah, I like to, most of your water leaks, is it PUA or ACUD1 or is there a specific place
So
within the lines that we have these leaks?
it's not necessarily, yes, PUA has more leaks, but they also have more lines. Their number is 5.63%. ACUD1's only 0.78%.
So it is higher PUA.
Yes, it is higher.
And that's being, I would assume, I'm not, I would assume being is the PUA pipes, because they are so old,
It's
and they've been there for such a long time, that these pipes are some of the pipes that needs to be changed out.
That's what you'd think.
It factors its age, it's how deep it's done. Some pipes that are installed only 6-8 inches below are more susceptible to frost, and other, outside vehicles running over the top of them, they're not as protected. So yes, age is probably the most significant factor.
Is that regular or is that just periodically that we have these leaks? This is a regular situation that we...
Well, this is an average over the year of 2021.
It-
So this, we do look at it, but as Gavin said, because, you have so many variables downstream that it's hard to really look at it on a real frequent basis. Part of what Mr. Berry is going to do here, he's going to look and see if we can do a reconciliation or some kind of relationship between what the water plant produces and what we sell, and we see if, where that is. But, one thing that I thought the numbers would be much more out of line than with what EPA and these agencies say is average, but, we're 8%, and the average, they're recommending what was
14
it,
to 16.
Yeah. So, I thought it was smaller than I really expected.
So at this point, Calvin, Mr. Bill, if we identify the worst water leaks, and if we had to go in and change immediately, if we had the necessary funds and stuff that we need to go in, we'll be able to direct and go to the worst spot that we need to get those corrected.
Well, obviously, when we start this Corps of Engineers project, we're gonna use all this data to find this is a place where we can get the most benefit. So, we'll have a lot better idea of how much we can reduce once we start looking at that on the replacement side.
So is there a cost factor?
Well, what it does is, obviously, you make the water, and if you don't sell everything that you make, it makes your price go up
Price to
to the customer.
customer?
Yeah, the price that'll come. So if the lower you can get that gap, then that's more efficient price that you can give to the customer. But we can look at, I did some real rough numbers, and even if you reduce it to zero, assuming these are all right, it's not a real significant difference to 3,000 customers. But, we don't want to be wasteful is the main thing.
Not at all. So we are in line of correcting that.
Yes, that's this grant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Questions for Gavin?
All right, the only thing I didn't cover is the transfer of the assets to ACD2, and so still this application has not been submitted to the LPSC by NWI. It's a lot of acronyms, I know, but they're still telling us within the next few weeks that they should have it. So we'll keep you informed on that. The bottom I have, and you guys can kind of help me with this format, but I thought I'd leave the goals down there and update you on them every month. And these reports, we're going to get those kind of more standardized, and we'll have something similar to this every month, so we can look at the projects and we can look at the plant performance and any overriding issues that we have. But the goals, I think, you guys are capable of looking at that.
Any, Mr. Dow?
Hey, Bill, on the first one, schedule and operational audit of water treatment facilities, you say not schedule. Do we have any idea, like on a timeline on when we may do that? Because I know we had talked about that a year ago.
What I wanted to do is I wanted Mr. Berry to finish the technical analysis.
Okay.
And then we'll pick up what's left from that, and we'll do an operational audit of it.
Okay. So,
It will be, I would say this, it'd be like 3 months away.
for him to complete what he needs to
Well,
do?
with him, he's complete, and then we have to put together a RFQ or something to do this, so that
Okay.
would take.
So
some
maybe
time.
beginning of next year?
I'm sorry?
Would that be, would that be?
I'm hoping it'd be like mid-year of 2022.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Coach, you had anything else you want to add to? And I like how you put on, added this period, you wanting comments, is that gonna come from staff and?
Are you ready to go to general business?
Any other questions on the goals or
Well,
the progress?
naturally, the goals for the West Ascension Utilities is to try and lower the customers and try to keep consistency on the water bills from being 1 month is one thing and the next month is something else. Trying to get it as consistent and as low as possible that we can, giving them, again, as you said here, good, safe drinking water, but being at a quality and at a low price.
So as you know, one of the main purposes of Mr. Berry is to look at these out of whack readings. They're not acceptable to me. They're not acceptable to any of our staff, so we're gonna get that corrected, but, we're gonna let Mr. Berry's gonna look at that and he's gonna tell us, perhaps it's in the meters. I don't know exactly where it is, but we're gonna make that effort, and to have a bill of $30 for 3 months and then have a bill of $1,000 is
That's
completely unacceptable.
And the reason I say that, I got a high number of my elderly folks and a high number of people that's on fixed income, so.
Well, I don't know if
I
it'd
know
be
we're not
elderly,
looking to
but
give
I
away
wouldn't
nothing,
like that either.
We want to be consistent with it,
Yeah.
in serving them and try to be as honest as possible and trying to get them as low as they possibly can, working with them.
All right,
Again, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
appreciate the updates and look like a lot of good things
Yeah.
to happen in the,
Well,
utility.
if you want to, that's up to you. I can go back, or we have a couple of things in the general business that I probably need to address.
okay, let's go ahead, if you through with your director report, we'll go ahead, go to the approval of the February 15th Utility Committee meeting.
Motion.
Minutes, moved by Mr. Dow, second by Mr. Aaron. Approved general business A.
Well, we did that.
Gavin gave,
That was done in the director's
Perfect.
report, so you can approve
so
that.
anything he needs to add, you're good.
No, we're good.
Okay, we're going to, B, the approval of amendment number 10. That's the master contract for professional services. Bill, you have this with, Evans Graves, the extension.
Right. And this is, again, I talked to Travis a couple of times today, and we agreed that I would propose that we make that coincident or same as the Shaw contract, which is 4/23/22. So we would extend that contract. It's a short extension, I realize that, but they should be tied together. And then they still have to go to finance, and then from finance, they'll obviously go to the council. So there's 2 more bites at that apple. But our recommendation is it be extended to 4/23.
Mr. Dow.
So I got a question. You said there was no mechanism for penalties. Can we amend that while we're amending the length of contract? Or are we just gonna keep
Well, I mean,
doing
I
this
don't
over and
think
over
after the
again?
fact you can go in and,
No, I'm just asking.
yeah. I mean, I looked into the contract fairly deeply. Obviously, it's hard to reconcile a 3-year being off. Yeah. I mean, there are some things that we could do, but really, as far as going back and holding the contractor responsible for the schedule, when, in fact, all these schedules were approved by the Evans Graves, and they were all approved by our council. Every extension was.
Okay. But we're still, I mean, with every extension, do we just keep, I mean, I'm just asking. I mean, it just seems like we're gonna be here a year from now, extending again.
Well, I mean, it's obviously, it's up to you guys as the council ultimately. You know, my unasked for opinion is that, you know, there's 3 or 4 weeks of work left, maybe 6 weeks of actual work. And if, you know, under normal circumstances, I would support removing the contractor and replacing the contractor, but that would take you 6 months. And so these people's streets would be torn up for another 6 months.
No.
Okay. Oh, I wasn't insinuating.
No,
that.
I'm
just insinuating.
It's a good question.
At some point, do we want to do a penalty? I'll motion.
Moved by Mr. Dow. Second.
I'll second. I have something.
Second for
4/23,
Mr. Aaron,
April 23,
April 23rd,
22.
2022.
Yeah.
discussion. Discussion, Mr. Aaron.
Well, okay, I'll make an amendment to extend the contract to April 23rd, 2022. But my discussion is, I think this is a good opportunity to ask the administration that when y'all negotiate these contracts, I know this is, you know, this one is a long time ago that this was negotiated. But we look at, we
it
look at
was in
putting
there.
contracts in them, penalties in them, tighter timelines. Yeah, it's not always possible, but we also have to make sure that, you know, we know that we have rain days. I think we can find an average per year of how many rain days we have. and that
Yeah,
should
they
be
normally
understood.
do that.
Yeah, I know they do, but it seems like every time it's something longer. I'd rather get things done quicker and pay a little bit more for it than have it drag on forever. So just asking the administration
I'll
to tighten
bring
up
that
on
up.
those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So we have a motion and a second. Any opposition to the motion? None? Motion passed. We're going to C, discussion and approval of PUA and ACUD number 1 rules and regulations and fees.
So here, your sheet should look something like this. It may have some red writing rather than, but it should say PUA ACUD 1 Fee Schedule. And it's a page and a half, and then a half a page of an explanation. So what this does is it adjusts really just one rate. It adjusts the commercial rate for PUA and made that the same as ACUD 1. So if this is adopted, then the rates will be the same across the board, whether you're an ACUD 1 customer or a PUA customer. It also removes I removed this out and put it as an attachment to the rules and regulations because this should be sent to the council for an ordinance. And so it separates the rules and regulations, the booklet out, and we're gonna propose some revisions to that later, but I think that could be approved probably by the utility committee. But I had to pull out the rate structure so that could be put into an ordinance and the council voting 2/3 for
Excuse
it.
me, Chair, is this Exhibit A, Bill, that you're referring to?
Yeah, mine said attachment A, but you can call, I don't know, we changed the name on it.
It's the wrong file. They have a different one, and that's in the packet online than the last one we sent them. Because
Okay.
there still says the 70.
Okay, so we need to get you have the newest one?
We have 2 of them on there, if I remember correctly.
Sorry, I thought we sent that. You have the,
It's
Current.
it's marked as Exhibit A
Yeah.
in the back of
Yeah,
y'all's.
there are 2 of them
packet.
on there.
Yeah.
If you go to the very back of it.
It says Exhibit A on it. You don't have it?
I'm borrowing Dow's, teamwork.
So there are some additions, and in addition to that one change, there's 4 places that we added something. It was something that we didn't have a fee schedule for, mainly a 6-inch line, an 8-inch line. That's the new tap fees and new new service fees for 6 and 8 inch. We didn't have anything for 6 and 8 inch in the previous. Additionally, this leak adjustment rate, if you see that in the middle, we added that. That's a procedure that's outlined, and what it does, it allows us to give a one-time a year discount to somebody that has a verified leak and have had that repaired. And so it puts a floor on what that can be, because we can't make it any lower than the cost of us to produce the water.
So that's
Yeah, go ahead, please.
that's how you came up with this 526?
Correct. So the actual cost that we ran to produce the water is in the range of 5. I bumped it up 25 cents just to make sure that we weren't, to give it a little bit of longevity. But actually, Coach, if you look at this, of course, every situation is different, but the one that we had pending, we compared this to the old formula, and this was actually a greater discount than what the old formula was.
I have a question,
Okay.
too. May I borrow your, the big thing, the thick one that we're talking about now? Page 10, I think it is under the leak adjustments. I was looking at the wording. I think.
Yeah, this whole thing, I'd
Yeah,
ask
sure.
you, be patient with me on the rules and regulations. We're not,
Okay, so
it's
we're not
all
proposing-
messed up.
Okay, I got you. 'Cause
Yeah.
I just saw where it talks about the billing cycle. I think it should be shall instead of should.
Yeah,
'Cause that just leaves.
that's another reason I want to pull this out, get this off to make an ordinance in the council, and then we're gonna redo this book.
I got you.
Okay.
And I was a little confused about it. I thought they were trying to approve the whole thing. My other question that I had is the cutoff fee for locks. Why do people put locks on? I'm just asking you to put yourself
Well,
in their mind.
the company, we put locks on the valves to keep them from opening it when we shut them off for non-payment. And then they come with the big cutters and they cut the lock off and open the valve. And they have water again all of a sudden.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. Why are we reducing that fee? I mean, that's stealing. We're reducing it from.
No, it's two different things now.
Oh, okay, because it looked like, well, one of them was 150 for the first offense, the other was 50 and then 150. Why wouldn't we?
$50 for the first offense, second offense, $150.
The 150 was in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's. Okay. Yeah, well, I see it's
Okay.
up there.
Okay.
Okay, so the one that we're accepting, the second one, not attachment A. Because on attachment A.
No, it's Exhibit A. I'm sorry
Exhibit A.
about that. Exhibit A.
Okay, because on attachment A, the cut lock fee is 150.
That was the old.
Don't
Yeah.
tell them, the cut lock fee, first offense should be $50, second offense, $150.
And that's what I'm asking, why would we want to make it 50 instead of 150? Why would we reduce that?
Well, it's my understanding that that's what we had been doing, and we had even though we had the 150.
So wait, we've been doing something that we weren't collecting enough on?
Originally, we had the 150 in there as a placeholder. That was something we had added to the list, but we just put it in as a placeholder. When we were talking about how we'd assess the fee, we wanted to have enough to cover the
What
cost
did
of the
we have
lock.
previously in there?
We weren't charging anything for a cut lock.
Oh, okay.
So we had it in there as a placeholder to assign the fees. So when we were coming to the conclusion of how we wanted to assess it, we wanted to start off with the first offense is cover the cost of the lock, cover the cost of the guys to go out and install it. And, have to go out and redo
What
it.
about the cost of the water that they've stolen?
They're still charged the cost of the water. So if they go out and cut the lock, what they're billed for is the cost of the water, the cutting of the lock, and then the $42 reconnect fee which now is the $20.
Which is $20.
The $20, but then they'd be charged a $20 reconnect fee in order for them to get their water back on. If we find, more likely than not, if we find their lot cut, the next thing we do is we pull their meter. So it normally doesn't, get to the fact of the 150.
Makes a little more sense. It was just very confusing that we had a placeholder that wasn't really there. I don't know, it was just very
Well,
confusing.
we were angry that day and put a high number.
Not a problem, I was just confused. I was trying to figure out where we were going with this. That makes sense.
What Patrick would like is to go to finance on the way to the council. So I guess that's whatever your motion is, if you'd like to send it to.
Mr. Pat, if you don't mind, come up, please.
Yeah.
Sure. We had made some recommendations with the chairman of the council and with finance to send all amendments and the fees to finance, just so we can check some of the things you're talking about. So I would love to work from between here and finance with the legal counsel to make sure that the amendment, if there is liquidated damages, is there something else we need to do? Also with this item, just give it a double check, get to work with Bill and Gavin to make sure that everything we're talking about is done. I think there was a little confusion about a couple of the items. So just give us more time to make sure, obviously have the conversation here of those individual items, but let's just double check it so that way when it goes to finance, we'll know if everything's lined up exactly what was intended.
I'm in favor of that.
And to do that, the motion would be to recommit to finance.
Great. Mr. Dow.
I'll make the motion to recommit item C to finance.
Second by Mr. Thomas.
You do mean finance department, not
Finance
committee?
committee
And B,
Finance committee.
and B, right.
and B as well.
Yeah, I
Can we
was
do,
gonna do one and then go back.
Okay,
can we go back and do that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Cinnamon.
well, you only have committee.
So since we made an amendment to B, so wait, are we done with C? Let's get C out the way. C is
So
a,
we have a motion and a second. Any opposition to,
So you
C?
want the Evans Graves contract to go back to finance committee as
right, well, I was
well?
gonna finish C first and then, so we could go back to that
So
one.
we
But I was gonna ask you.
We're moving all of C or just Exhibit A?
Well, it should be just the Exhibit A,
The fee schedule.
Yes.
So that's gotta be the motion.
just the
Yes.
fees.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion, I'll retract my former.
retracted?
I'll make a motion to take the fee schedule, Exhibit A of item C, and have it redirected to the finance committee, the next finance committee meeting for review.
Motion, second by Mr. Allen.
Seconded, just clarification on what you're bringing back.
Discussion, Mr. Allen.
Clarification, I'll second the motion, but to clarify what you're bringing back to the,
To finance would just be the fee schedule,
which
Exhibit A.
is,
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A is,
Coach,
Yeah.
this fee schedule.
okay.
It has,
All right,
it has
okay,
the one, it has the one, yeah.
okay,
You good?
All
I'm
right,
good, we good.
any opposition to that motion? If not, we will gladly send that.
You need a motion to reconsider item B as well.
Mr.
Okay.
Dow,
I'll make a motion to reconsider item B to, send it to the finance committee.
second. Any opposition?
Reconsiders one, then we need another motion to send it to finance.
So if there's no objection to the
Okay.
reconsideration, then you'll open it back up.
So no objections to the reconsider, okay. And I'd also like to make a motion to move item C to the finance committee,
As amended.
as amended,
As amended.
right,
Second
with the
by
extension.
Mr. Allen.
Wait, C or B?
B, we're on B.
Yeah, I thought you said C just.
Who's on
So
first?
why are we
I might have-
sending B back? That's my question.
They want finance, they want that at finance.
But that's only a time issue.
But that was still the directive of the council chair and the finance chair that all go. And again, this is just another opportunity for our, we now have some contract individuals who are looking at contracts and finance, and also for legal to look at it as well.
Gotcha.
So could you maybe take a minute to, talk about what we discussed about how some of the things we miss in contracts, we could actually catch in finance by having legal review them?
Sure.
Shouldn't legal be reviewing them before though?
So whenever contract amendments have been going to committees and then they go to the council, and a lot of times we're finding out about them right before the council meeting, and then we hurry up and review them, and we're finding that sometimes the days are wrong, the amounts are wrong, and there's errors, and then we're trying to scramble right before the council meeting. So it's just an opportunity for us to do those checks on the front end, make sure all the amendments correct, whether it's days or money. We're also finding sometimes that they might require an amendment. Unfortunately, everything deals with finance, and a lot of the amendments end up dealing with finance. And we just want to make sure that when they go to council, it's very easy for y'all, and it's on the consent, and they don't have to be pulled off the consent, because I know that's a big emphasis of this administration and the council is we want as much on the consent as possible. So if they come to finance, we have the staff that can check all of those sides. I know, too, there's also a lot of the different departments don't have the staff to check the change orders as we do, because we have people that are specifically assigned, because before we can pay, we have to make sure the dates are right and all the information is correct. So we want, when the council approves it, we also can pay it, and there's no problems.
So it goes back to what I said earlier, dotting your i's and crossing your t's.
Yes, sir.
So another part of this is that in the Evans Grave contract, then now it gets coupled with the Shaw contract, which is where I think they should be, and they'll both be in finance together. So if someone wants to extend that and give them an opportunity to finish, then it can be done in finance or through the council where they join back up.
Mr. Aaron?
I guess as we're on the subject, though, it seems like we're adding a step that's going to delay things by adding it to another committee where really this should take place before it gets, and I'll look at it from the transportation standpoint, the transportation department should be working with the finance department and the legal department, but when it comes to transportation ahead of time, so that we can have it worked out and then we go directly to the council instead of having to add another committee, which, and I know I've talked to Joey several times, we have contractors that are not getting paid timely because of delays.
No, absolutely, and that's what we want to try to fix. So we're trying to notify, we do notify the departments well in advance, but what we're finding is y'all are getting change orders, contracts right before they're expiring. And so part of what we're doing and part of what we're doing in finance is we're going to have that list of contracts. We're going to make sure 4 months out, everybody knows, and that when it comes to finance, it can go to the other committee as well, but it's well in advance, and there's not going to be any problems, because we're feeling that pain right now where we're getting it last minute. Everybody thinks it's a finance problem when we're just getting the information late, and then we can't, if there's no contract amendment done in time, we can't pay. So we actually have an individual that is starting to work and look specifically at contracts. He's going to work with the project managers, work with Joey, work with Dean, work with Jeff Burris from Move Ascension, and we're going to try to get way ahead of this game, way ahead, so we don't ever have this again. So our goal is that we never are jammed again with these emergencies, because we're constantly dealing with emergency change orders, emergency contracts. So our hope is that with this kind of new team we've put together, that we don't ever have that again.
My thought is, though, that it should involve another committee. It should be done at the administrative level before it even gets to us. We're adding another step and we've talked about this before, that
I tell you, in my experience, the committee it usually doesn't go to the subject matter committees, because I think what y'all have done here today is great, giving updates on the water and the progress and the performance. But in terms of when it comes to the money and what's going to happen with the contract, there's also an advantage of finances. It's got all 11 members. So instead of, a few members maybe being able to approve something, the whole group gets to look at it and look at the finance, because the budget affects everybody. So at least in my world, I'm used to all change orders going to like joint legislative committee on the budget.
then will we have people from whether it's recreation, transportation, utilities, at those meetings, ready to answer the questions that we normally ask at?
Yes, so I was asked that question. We might have to have people come to an extra meeting, but what it avoids is me or my staff having to go to every meeting. And so it may, and what I'm actually hoping is that as we work through this, we see less change orders. If we start doing these liquidated damages, if we start looking at these change orders a little closer, maybe we don't need to do as many. So the hope would be is that we can maybe tighten up our contracts, tighten up with the project managers to get a little ahead of the game, and maybe we don't have as many. So that would be the ultimate goal, would be to have less change orders so that it saves everybody time.
I guess my last question, though, is is change orders that involve time only. Why would those go to finance?
Because we're seeing a lot of errors and then we can't pay. You know, if there's errors in the change orders, a lot of the change orders are submitted by the contractors. And so when we find they've gone to council, or even if they've gone to council because we didn't realize they were there, like Tony Orso, she is the kind of the goddess of all contracts and the payments. She's the one that really needs to check it. We had asked maybe we could be moved up front in the process and her checking before they go to council, but things were just getting missed. And so it's just for us, and for me, it makes the most sense. Anything dealing with a contract, which is money and time and payments, I would love my staff to have the opportunity to review it, so when they come to finance, they've checked all sides. They've talked to the project manager about the actual project, they've looked at the financing to make sure it's right, they've looked at the days to make sure it's right, and now I really want our new person to look at the actual contract, and was the change order even warranted? Because we seem to do a lot of change orders.
I mean,
Believe me,
there-
what he's trying.
No, I understand what he's trying to do, but the problem is it should already be done at the administrative level.
Well-
It should involve us in meetings. That should be done by the finance department, by the transportation department, before it even gets to us. Adding another committee and a vote on things is just inefficient. It should be done already.
Yeah, and I guess my recommendation is there is only one committee and it's finance, and so we'll have the holistic view. We will have transportation, we'll have everybody else.
And look, I had to learn the hard way when I was chairman of drainage, and we finally was able to fast track, and believe me, it's gonna go a lot smoother. Aaron, I'm telling you right now,
can I make a comment?
it really helps. I'm sorry, Mr. Dow.
Can I just make a
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
comment? So, I mean, and we just talked about this yesterday, but I truly believe this answers what you're trying to do, and I think if it holds something up, then we talk about it, but I think, I trust in Pat that he's gonna put this process in place so we avoid those emergencies. I mean, that's,
Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't think what you're talking about exists in a functional group in the administration right now, and I think that's what he's trying to establish. And he's got the personnel to do it already, to build that process.
yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with, look, I can tell you, well, I'm not gonna talk about my company, but
yeah, don't do that.
this happens in big companies. I mean, contracts get missed, and I mean, it's about what process you can put around it to catch it. I think this is the process we want to catch it and
Yeah,
avoid
yeah,
the
as long as-
emergencies.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the key. We've just had too many emergencies.
Yep.
And it just,
And what I'll commit to you is kind of what Chairman Wagasback said. If this starts to become a problem and it's onerous, we will revisit it. We will. We want to make this more efficient, so we'll continue to work with everybody to make sure that this doesn't add time to the process. Hopefully, this saves time, so I'll commit that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Pat. Appreciate it.
All right, Bill, was there anything finished up?
Well,
the
we
last
have
motion?
the next thing on the agenda is the review of the 2020 audit. And I'm gonna turn that over to Ms. Bro and Patrick.
Excuse me, Bill, can we clarify the motion?
That's
The
what I was
Evans-
fixing to
The
back
Evans
up to do.
Graves contract is going to Finance Committee with the expiration date of April 23rd, 2022. You need to clarify that in the motion, because you
Yeah.
did it the first time, but you need to.
oh, we
do
have to
it.
redo it again.
Okay.
So it's going with that extension only to April 23rd, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Ms. Senator. Do we need anything else on that? Thank y'all for clearing that up. Okay, Mr. Patton, Ms. Kim?
Good evening. As most of you know, I was assigned to oversee some financials at the water company in July of last year. As Patrick said, it'll be about 3 to 6 weeks max. 8 months later,
Here we are.
here we are. You ready? Can I go look at some contracts for you, Patrick? In your packet is the detailed summary that Bill and I composed. However, I kind of condensed it again just to kind of go over it with you guys quickly. and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I am only going to address the ACUD number 1 PUA side of it. We're going to first go over the audit findings and the action that we have taken before we go over any audit recommendations. The first finding was both PUA and ACUD had record adjustment to customer accounts without supporting documents. So this is a tricky thing. An adjustment form and file has been created now in the event a customer requests a one-time leak adjustment for, we had a bad leak, we have proof that it was repaired, we now have a file in place, we have an Excel spreadsheet. However, we need y'all to understand, on the ACUD number 1 side, any penalties, any fines that we assess a customer shows up at first glance as an adjustment. An NSFE at first glance is an adjustment. We have shown the auditors this year how there's no other way. That's the nature of the program. So we feel like we may make some headway on here. Item number 2, findings. PUA and ACUD have significant funds that are due efforts to collect outstanding balances. Accounts are now being closed for non-payment, and deposits are being used to offset some of the outstanding balances. We have had some discussions internally. If the deposit does not cover the outstanding balances, should we go to legal for demand letters? However, some rental properties in Donaldsonville, they move, they leave, there's no forwarding address. How do we get the numbers off the books? We don't know. That's still a work in progress. Number 3, manual readings appear to be inconsistent. We have now implemented a calendar that will change monthly. No meter reader will read the same route 2 months straight. So if meter reader A is reading route 110, the month of January, month of February, meter reader B will read route 10 to consider. We also have Mr. Berry coming in to oversee some of these ideas and give us some insight on what's going on with any inconsistencies. Finding, daily deposits are not reconciled daily. Daily deposits contain errors that were identified and corrected by our finance department. That was a huge factor in Patrick and I, with me first coming on in Patrick and I's discussions. We have now implemented a daily deposit verification form. This item is used daily to reconcile the books. This form tracks all monies collected. This form also tracks the teller that collected the money and tracks any errors that the teller has made. That way we could use it for a coaching session later. This form allows us to find errors with checks, reducing our bank corrections. And I have an example of a check in your packet. For example, the check may have been written in the box for $24, written out for $20. The bank is going to go by what is written. If our teller enters 24, the number on the box, it's going to come back as a bank correction. It is our responsibility to correct that. I'm happy to report we've reduced that fee by about 98%. Finding lack of effective operation and managerial oversight, including customer account management, software security, and operational performances. We have now restructured the UDS passwords. UDS is the PUA software. Our lead teller and myself are the only ones that can make voids to customer accounts. We are now maintaining the passwords and safe and secure. However, on the ACUD number 1 side, things are more complex. The teller must have adjustment capability. It's the nature of that program. When I say an adjustment capability, I mean a customer is cut off for non-payment. A customer comes in to pay their reconnect fee, cutoff fee that we've just reduced. If the teller does not have adjustment capability, they cannot add that fee. So that would leave me or our lead teller all day long worrying about adding adjustment, slowing down the customer process. It's the nature of the beast. We have again addressed this with the auditors to let them know. That's how the program works. Findings, accounts were opened without deposits. Tellers have been instructed that all new accounts and any reinstated account must have a deposit. There will be no exceptions. Our audit recommendations that was recommended by the auditors in the 2020 audit. The parish implement internal functions to monitor internal policies and fiduciary obligations. We have begun the policy and procedure manual that will come to you guys. This manual is in the final stages. And we also feel that the daily verification sheets, we have teller change forms now. When a teller needs change for us to go to the bank, she has a form to complete. Money out of her drawer, money in her drawer, back and forth. These policies were put in as control measures. Recommendation, water use is accurately reported to bill customers. Again, we've hired Mr. Barry to help us oversee this problem. Do we have a problem here? If so, how do we identify it? Where do we go from here? Replace or repair faulty meters to ensure customers are billed correctly. First of all, we're using data logs to test any meters. This is the action that we have taken. If the meter's faulty, they are replaced with Neptune meters. We are happy to report that ACUD number 1 is 100% Neptune meters, all electronic meters. Recommendation, require and adjustments to customers' accounts be significantly documented and approved in a consistent manner. Adjustment forms are now in place. We have a file system in place that did not exist before. At any given time, an auditor can walk in our office and say, I would like to see the adjustment form on customer number A that was done in January of 2022. You can pull January 2022 now. Any teller can access that for anyone. That Excel spreadsheet, along with all documentation, must be filed. Any adjustment form for leakage must go to Bill Dawson for final approval and review. It should be noticed that it also should be noted that our tellers have now been instructed any correspondence with customers shall be put in the notes section in the data system, and each teller must initial their notes. Recommendation, take aggressive action to collect delinquent accounts. We now have pay plans. We now have had legal oversee our pay plan form. We have once again created a new file system for our pay plans. Each teller must go over the pay plan with the customer once they agree to it, and both the teller and the customer sign this document and be filed. Recommendation, reconcile customer meter accounts and resolve any differences identified. Ensure IT access controls are in place, preventing ability for employee bill, collect records, and adjustments. The PUA side, we now have teller logs assigned to each teller. Each teller has their own login name, their own login password. There is no shared teller name, no shared teller password. Each teller has a for voids. This has been restricted to myself and our lead teller. Again, a void could be necessary. For example, on the PUA side, customer A comes in to make a payment with a check. By accident, she hit the cash button. When we balance at the end of the day, we will be off. So a void would be needed. We do a rough balance at the end of every day. The next morning, I physically go in and verify every check, every money order, and count the cash. Our tellers are now responsible for putting customer accounts on account numbers on their checks and on all money orders to ensure that everything is documented and tied back and forth. In closing, I would like to say that I'm proud of the progress that we have made in this office. By taking the extra measures, we have reduced the number of bank corrections greatly by about 98% according to our man in finance. In your packet, you have a letter from the finance department, and they can attest to our improvements. The water company has been through many changes in the last 8 months, and I'm proud that they have stepped up to do what is needed to make these changes. And I am confident that our next audit will show and reflect our efforts. I have Patrick to back up anything that I've said, because he's had to work with me and hear me cry and go, I don't know what I'm doing. What do you all want to do on this? Do you have any questions? If you have any questions on the in-depth detail provided to y'all, please let me know. Email me, call me. I'll be happy to answer any questions now or later.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Any questions, Mr. Aaron.
I've got a couple. It really does look good. It's impressive. I had a couple questions. I heard a couple things. Adjustment capability, I think you're talking about the tellers. Can they adjust both up and down? 'Cause you
Can they
mentioned
adjust
that-
bills? So on the PUA side, no. The
Okay.
PUA side, no, they cannot. That will require a certain password that I have and the lead teller has. As far as saying, oh, well, I don't think their bill should be, no, the teller cannot do that. We
Okay.
put place in,
But you mentioned something about that they can, if.
on the
there's a recon-
ACUD number one side.
Yes.
So they cannot physically adjust the bill. What they can do, it shows up as an adjustment. If you look at the main screen, you'll see adjustment, adjustment, adjustment. They have to have that capability if an NSF fee comes in. Now, I've been putting in NSF fees, not the teller. But when you come in and they put in a new deposit, new service, $150 deposit, $120 is your deposit, $30 is the service fee. Your service fee goes in as an adjustment.
Got
Once you tap down, so that teller has to have that capability. That teller has to have the capability to add the cutoff fee to it. If not,
You're talking about adding things. My question is can they remove things?
if they do, we'll find it and it's tied to that teller. We can go back and check weeks later who did what.
Okay, and that was kind of my question,
Yes,
and just to see if they would have to document it.
yes, it is tied to them.
It is tied to them.
From the backside that nobody can see,
Yes.
per se, yes, we
Okay.
can see.
That's good. Let's see, what else? I was looking at the reasonable efforts to collect overdue bills. I know you talked about there are some issues with rental properties and that sort of thing. What about non-rental properties? Are we making a robust effort to collect those?
Well, what's happened in the past, so what we're doing right now, I've started going through, I closed accounts earlier this year and in December of last year that hadn't had payment from May of 2020. No payment. No deposit. The account was old. ACUD side, which at one time didn't require deposit. It required minimal deposit, $5, $25 deposit. It didn't offset the bill. There's no forwarding address. We're kind of stuck. It's on the books.
We can't identify the person, though?
We have some that's, we're sure they're deceased. We have, bills keep coming back and, no, they just kind of, we're working to figure this out. How do we collect this? And after so many years, when do we write it off the books?
No, I understand, but it's akin to a tax in a way. And what I mean by that is, if we're not collecting enough, we have to use tax dollars. And if we have somebody that's not paying their taxes in the parish, we don't just say, oh, we've had a lot of trouble collecting it, we're just not gonna do it.
We
So
can use a collection agency.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of my concerns is that, if we don't collect enough of this and these get too large, it falls back on the taxpayers.
Well, and the problem was they wasn't being closed out. They got too hot. They were being billed every month, and now we're going in, we're closing out. I mean, I closed out 3 yesterday and today. They had made a payment. Some of them since December.
So when you say close them out,
I closed the account. We pulled the meter, we closed the account. The deposit on file is reverted to the outstanding balance, and we closed the account.
and is there any more on top of that outstanding balance so that we can
Yeah,
collect?
sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. We do a final bill, but when the next person comes to try to, because they can get creative, and Mr. Lawler can come in and close his account and not pay his bill, but all of a sudden, Mrs. Lawler comes in. Same address, well, there's an outstanding balance here that needs to be paid.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're collecting all we can.
Sure, and I'll just add that we've had this question of, we have these old accounts that maybe are outstanding, we can't find them, what do? We can't just write them off. It's the whole Article 7, Section 14 of the Constitution, donation. Exactly what you're saying, we can't give away water, we can't give away these amounts. So we had a conversation with the auditor, and he said, well, if you make reasonable efforts, and so that's going to be, what is the reasonable effort? So something like a collection agency.
Okay.
And you go to every length we can to try to collect, and there's going to be a point, and that's what we're going to have to decide internally is, when do we reach that point and we write it off? Because we can't keep them on the books forever. If we can't find them, if
Right.
they're deceased, if they have no relatives, it doesn't make any sense to make it look like we have outstanding collections. that are really old. So we're going to be working, and thankfully the auditor's kind of given us some guidance on how we do that. So that's going to be part of this effort moving forward. I think that would, hopefully that addresses
Yeah.
concerns.
The last thing, and I don't know if this even covered that, I know a while back we had like a $30,000 extra that we were collecting from the sheriff's office, the jail. Where do we stand on that?
So that was actually part of the 2019 audit. The auditors found it. They actually were able to finally quantify it. I think it was $669,000. And so as part of their audit, so it would be last year's that we did, they did some correcting entries all through fund balances so that we could get that straight. And so that was one of the findings that we hopefully we can, we take care of that. It's done. It shouldn't happen again. I was even asked to look at the collections, the actual expenditures for the jail, and you can see that dramatic increase that started in 2017 and that dramatic drop. So they have been right-sized with what they're paying.
Did we have to pay them back that money? How does that work?
So what made it complicated is it's general fund. We fund the jail with general fund. So we thought, well, since it's general fund, maybe we can just do some kind of wash. But they made us do this through the account balance. So we had to add the $669,000 to the jail fund balance, which is just general fund, which then was technically a wash. So we kind of paid ourselves to fix it. But it was all corrected in that 2019 audit as part of that and the adjusting entries to get the fund balances correct.
Okay, very good.
So,
Good.
thank you, Chairman. So who's at fault for that? Was there anyone at fault, or was just a mistake, or just what took place?
So I don't know the specific individuals who were involved, but from what I understand, it was dealing with the meters and how you read them in the decimal places. And so on our end, when the auditor gave us their spreadsheet, we were able to actually ask our staff, can we go verify those numbers? And they said yes. When they were reading them, the decimal places were off, which elevated the amount of usage, which elevated the amount of expenditures that the jail was paying. And I think it was one of those things that just kept happening, and finance was probably questioning. But until they figured out, and the auditor was like, yeah, that meter reading is the problem, it just continued. So it was just the way the meters were read.
I think in talking to Bill and Ms. Kimberly, that we've put something in place with some of the water bills, the high water bills that we've had, and we've sent them out sort of we had a bill for $18,000 resident, a bill for $2,500, a bill for $2,600. And sending that, before you send that out, we have something in place now that bill won't go out to that person before we.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying, Councilman Thomas, that we're human, we can make errors. That $18,000 bill was, before I got there, let me just say that, it was before I got there.
It was the $18,000 bill was an error.
Yeah, what I'm saying is,
and it was covered, and like that particular customer did not have to pay that $18,000 amount. So in the event that occurs, because it does happen, it even happens on smaller amounts other than 18,000, where for some reason it happened to us last month. We had a meter, the starting value got reset to 0. And it read the full number on the meter. So the meter reading was correct. When we were able to pull up the information from the previous month, we were able to make that adjustment. So it's something that we try to catch. We run a variance report, we run a high reading report, we run a low reading report on both PUA and ACUD1. So we do try to catch it. However, there are anomalies. It's not uncommon for, unfortunately, some people to have a big water main bust under their house, and it causes them to have a high water bill. We do try to double check those. If that does occur, we send our guys out 2, sometimes 3 times if it's that high of a number. Once the number is in line with the other meter readings, then we don't have any other choice but to send that bill out for that amount. And then once the customer is notified, they do the repair, we can do the adjustment, the leak adjustment, and we'll work with the customer to try to recoup as much money as we can for that service.
And just the reason, I mean, it was just an incident that, we did have a rash of those water bills at a period of time that it did occur from the 18 to the 26 to the 8 to the $900. So what I'm saying, in terms of setting up a mechanism to catch that before it goes out to the customer.
Yes, sir. We're running those reports. We're looking at them. We try to get two people to look at it, at least one of us. We have the one billing clerk that's now her sole responsibility is to go through it and make sure, we're doing that too. With me and Kim are also looking at the ACUD customers, which are digitally read. So we've had less problems with the ACUD customers just because it is a digitally read meter and the computer sends it in and takes out the human error on it.
And again, you get that done, and hopefully we'll correct it. So I appreciate that. The thing I wanted to make sure that we didn't say it was the reconnecting fee
Yes.
be in effect April 1st is what I'm seeing on the paper here. It goes in effect,
Yes.
reconnecting fee from
Yes.
42 to 20
To
goes
20,
in effect.
yes, and our tellers have been
April 1st.
aware. Yes, I'm made aware.
The other thing I have is the PUA and the ACUD1. I may have asked this before, the combination of combining. Have we combined those two systems?
No, sir, we have not combined the two systems. So there is a question on me internally with moving PUA and ACUD into one system because of how we track cutoffs. Once we move over and start accepting credit cards and with a new system, so what our plan is to move the PUA customers to the ACUD billing, so that will change over the credit card, the way we take credit cards, the way online payments, the way bank drafts, where everything changes. That system, that company that we would have to use, I'm not 100% comfortable with a few things for notifications. I won't get real-time notifications, which is crucial on cutoff days. I need real-time numbers. In some discussions come up today, and we found out Tyler, which is our Munis, that we already own the software, offers a billing. So I asked Brian Martinez and Brandon O'Day to please start researching to see, is that user-friendly? Can they bill our customers? What is the cost? And start asking some hard, tough questions. Can they take credit cards? Can they do bank drafts? Can we do online payments? That went out today. Hopefully, with Wilford, he's talked to UDS and Munibilling. And when Wilford and I meet, I guess next week, I was out last week sick, we can address some of my concerns, and he may have an answer that I don't have, so that's our early stage. Do I believe we need one system? I absolutely do. Because Councilman Thomas, when a customer calls in on PUA, wants to make a payment on their credit, payment over the phone, do you have your account number? No, I don't. I live at 123 ABC Street. We have to exit out of that system, go into a different system, manually, with a pen and paper, write it down, the account number, their address, everything, then go back into another system and manually type everything in. It is very slow. Phones are ringing off and it's cutoff day. So if they have their account number, at least it kind of speeds things up for me. I have to have real-time numbers. I mean, that's just the bottom line on cutoff day. I have to.
Well, just moving forward is just something to think about, trying to combine.
I don't want to
making
put
this
us
as
on one
smooth
system,
as
Councilman
possible.
Thomas, and then I don't get real-time numbers on cutoff day. Then what are we doing? They're paying online and I'm not notified.
Just trying to make it as smooth as possible for the customer moving forward.
I'm ready to put them both, where both can have bank drafts, both can take credit cards, because it's very different when ACUD does not take credit cards, does not do bank drafts, and PUA does. Plus, we have to separate the two funds, because we have bonds against ACUD, number one.
No problem. As we was talking earlier, just the last question I have, the fees that's been on the books for quite some time. I think I talked to Bill about finding a system on what are we going to do with that.
Which,
You all mentioned it,
What-
fees, the over fees, the fees that they.
outstanding
they have,
balances?
Outstanding balances.
That's something that Patrick and I will work with and along with Wilford on how do we write these off.
We need to put it in the policy. I don't know how long we'll go with it, but it's something to look at as time goes on. For 5 years, 10 years, after 10 years, it's been on the book.
Oh, we don't
And,
keep it on books that long.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's not, but we need a policy on how long we'll keep that before they come in and pay. They have to pay it.
Any other questions?
That's basically all I have. I think things have been going pretty good.
Yeah.
We made tremendous strides in correcting a lot of our stuff that we had problems with.
Wasn't just me by myself, Councilman.
The main
Council.
thing for me was the inconsistent water bills that I've been getting.
We have moved one teller to strictly,
We made,
that
we
is
made
her main
strides in
focus
that, yeah.
every day.
Thank you all for the hard work, and we look forward to working with Mr. Wilford and making some more corrections. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll close out. I see a gentleman with his hand back up in the back. Did he sign in? No.
Mr. Ford, Reverend Ford.
While Mr. Ford's coming up, just real quick, Pat, so as far as our auditors, we have complied with the recommendations that they have set forth, or what we have, we have goals here that we're trying to set. Do you feel are we there? Are we getting close?
I think we've made tremendous progress. I know on the finance side, we're seeing the efforts pay off in much fewer deposit issues. They're few and far between where they used to be constant. So thank Kim for doing that. That's a huge effort. They have met with the auditors, so because the audit was done so late, because we were trying to get all the utilities work, because of COVID, it was delayed, they kind of ended and went straight now and they're into 2021. So they're providing them all the information for exactly what you were presented tonight. And so hopefully soon we'll see from them that they even agree that the recommendations were implemented and that we don't have any repeat findings. So the goal would be to have no repeat findings, and I feel like we've got a great chance for that to happen.
Good deal. Thank you, Pat. Mr. Ford, you had something? Mr. Reverend Ford.
Good evening, sir. Yes, I just came and listened to the agenda tonight. And one of the things was concerned with Councilman Thomas about the overcharge sometime about the water bills, especially for the elderly people. And I'm elderly too, but I'm totally talking about the real eligible people that is on a fixed income a month. And we know in this day and time and medical expenses and everything, plus the water bill, and when it be kind of inconsistent, everybody got a budget, and then this thing, something fall out of budget range, is kind of put a strain on some people, especially elderly people who might not have a little saving on the side to make up for overcharge or over something come up that they can't handle in the morning. And I'll listen to one thing. I want to see get this clear if I heard it right. If someone get cut off for not paying, right? And say it's a $50 charge for after the date of disconnect if they don't be paid.
It's $42 reconnecting fee that went to $20. The reconnecting fee once you get cut off, reconnect, it was 42. We went back to $20.
Okay, so I misunderstood. There's no charge besides the reconnection fee. That's the only charge. It sounds like you said something about that. As someone, I remember somebody said about cutting their lock and putting it
Mr.
back
Reverend,
on themselves.
it's a couple different steps in this, but what Mr. Allen just told you is true. But if it's tampering, then, it goes into a different scenario.
And just see, that's for a fee, just see if I can't meet deadline, say, on Monday was, my water supposed to be cut off. And, I don't pay it. Okay, so y'all come out and cut it off, right? 5 days after on the bill said disconnect day on the 25th. So you saying it'd be 5 days prior to the 25th? Disconnect day, disconnect day. That's the day of disconnect, right?
We don't assess the fee unless your water's cut off. So if you come pay that day before, before 8 o'clock, and we're out there to cut off at the guys at your house at 8:30, you don't pay the reconnect fee.
Right, so if I don't miss the fee, if I can't make the payment, they have to cut it off.
Yes.
Okay, that was, what is the fee for it?
$20, it's $20. Now, when they
plus-
cut it off, they put a lock on there.
Right,
And if the homeowner decides, well, I still want to get my water, and they go cut it, then there's a $50 fee for
cutting the lock.
off.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Okay.
That's,
$50
Now
people cutting the lock.
Now you're getting it, yeah.
$50 for the customer cutting the lock.
Right, okay, and it sound like also, so y'all say there's also, if he cut the lock, Monday was the disconnection date, right? Don't pay, you can come out and cut it off. Tuesday, I cut the lock. And I use it till Friday, I go pay Friday, so that 3 or 4 days that I used excess water. So y'all say, didn't y'all say there's a fee for that too?
No, so,
Did you?
no, you would be charged.
Sound like that what I heard.
So you would be charged your bill amount. Your bill amount, say, was $30. You didn't pay your $30. On disconnect day, we go cut your water off.
Right.
All right. Once your water's cut off, then we add the $20. So now you're up to 50. But then you're up to $50.
$52.
Well, just 50. Well,
20 and 42,
you have your
62.
42 is going away, it's just gonna be 20.
it's gonna be 20.
$42.
It's 20.
42 is 20.
Say, but at the,
That's going to affect April 1st.
okay.
So after you come in and pay that amount, the bill that was due, the 30, plus the $20 reconnect fee, then your water comes back on. All right. Even if you had the extra you didn't come pay for 4 days after that, the next billing cycle that they would read your meter on 10 days after your cutoff date, that would just be your new bill. It wouldn't be added to the original amount of $30.
Oh, so I missed, so there's no charge for the use, extra use when you shouldn't have been using it. Okay, but there's $20 for the reconnect fee. That's it.
That's right.
Unless you cut your lock.
Don't cut your lot.
Don't cut your lock.
Cut the lot.
But cut the lock at $50.
It's $50 if you cut the lot.
Don't do it twice.
If you cut 2 lots, it's $150.
Okay, I got you. Bless y'all, thank you.
Reverend, give us the extra prayer Sunday, and we appreciate y'all support and
Bless you.
help.
Got you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Motion adjourned by Mr.
Second.
Aaron, second by Mr. Thompson. We adjourn.